What's going on, guys? We are back at it again with another companion video here on the channel. This one, of course, as you can see right next to me, is on Mirri. More specifically on her companion skills. So just to take into consideration, I have done one on Bastion and I've done one for the other excess skills like armor and weapons and guild skill lines specifically. So this one though, we are going to be looking at Mirri and her class companion skills. So let's go ahead and go over to Mirri and see what she has to offer us. Alright, for this one, we're going to actually start backwards and look specifically at the Dark Elf skill called Dynamic. As you can see here, it says that it increases healing done by 3% and damage done by 3%. So this lends her to be a little bit better in terms of sheer potency of her heals, just because of this passive, making her a pretty good healer. Some people, I can't remember exactly which YouTuber it was, but somebody compared the Ring of the Pale Order with Mirri as a starter to beginner type level, and he determined that the Ring of the Pale Order was good, but Mirri was a little bit better in terms of the type of heals that he was getting. So Mirri's a good option for that. Personally, I kind of like her better as a bow, and we'll discuss that probably later or something. Maybe not, I don't know. But let's go ahead and jump into the class abilities. Like we did before, we're going to go from the bottom up because the top, where it says Deadly Assassin, holds the ultimate, and I want to talk about that last. So first things first, Life Absorption. Mirri's Life Absorption skill reads as Mirri Elendis steals an enemy's life force, dealing 4,480 magic damage and healing themselves or an ally around them for 10,239 health. The cooldown is 10.4 seconds, the range is 28 meters, target is on the enemy, and cast time is 2 seconds. So not only is it a quick cast time, but the cooldown is a little less than average. As I've determined in a previous video, 12 seconds is usually about average for a companion skill. So 10 seconds is a quick turnaround, and to have a 10,000 heal over time, essentially, or a heal, is pretty good. It's a pretty potent heal, especially if you have her set up as a healer, as I do myself. This skill is a good one. I really like this one, and I actually recommend it. I personally don't use it, but whenever I go on a DPS type build, I like using it because it's a very quick turnaround and burst heal. So I like it. It ain't very potent, but it's a good and fast heal. Blood Transfusion reads as Mirri Elendis infuses with an ally with blood, healing themselves for 15,345 health over 8 seconds. So right off the bat, we already know it's a hot, right? But the cooldown is 7 seconds, so it's a very quick turnaround. To be fair, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I do have some quickened traits equipped, so take that with a grain of salt. But either way, regardless, it is a very quick turnaround nonetheless. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and unequip those. Whoops. Did not mean to do that. Let's go ahead and unequip. So we get accurate determinations, and all these should be soothing, so we should be fine in that department. Okay, so Blood Transfusion. See, now it says 8 seconds, so regardless, like I said, right off the bat, it's still a very quick turnaround at 8 seconds. Duration, 8 seconds. Radius, 28 meters, and cast time, 0.4 seconds. Really quick, before I actually talk about this one, I'm gonna go into here, and see, now it's 12 seconds. So without any quickened, it's an average ability in terms of cooldown. So take that with a grain of salt, but either way, regardless, Life Absorption is a good skill. In terms of Blood Transfusion, it is still a very good heal. It's a very powerful heal at 10,580 health over time. So this skill if you can see on my bar, I actually use it on my number 2 bar because of its quick turnaround and its pretty potent heal. So I definitely recommend this if you're going to be running Mirri as a healer build in particular. So there's that. Then you have Life Siphon. Life Siphon reads as Mirri Elendis siphons the vigor from the blood of enemies nearby, dealing 3090 magic damage and healing themselves and their allies for 3531 health. Cooldown 16 seconds, radius 8 meters, target area, cast time 0.6 seconds. Right off the bat, I'm gonna tell you, I don't really like this. Not only does it have not a very potent heal, it's a very small heal, comparatively speaking, to the other skills. But on the same token, it also has a relatively high or higher than average cooldown at 16 seconds, and the radius is only 8 meters. So she has to be pretty close for it to work or to happen. But the only positive I can see is that it has a pretty decent cast time at 0.6 seconds. But that's not enough to save this ability or this skill, if you ask me. I don't personally like it. It's not very potent, and it has a pretty high cast time. So if you're going to put this on your bar, I would probably put this at the back or maybe even at the very front. But having regeneration, I think it's a better skill overall. So I don't know. I personally don't like this. Let me know if you guys use it down below. I personally don't like it. I would probably run this on a DPS build instead of a healer build. So there's that. Something to take into consideration, but personally I don't like it. Moving on to Living Shade. First skill on this line is Ghostly Evasion. Ghostly Evasion reads as Mirri Elendis surrounds themselves in a phantasmic or aura, dodging the next attack made against them, while also reducing their damage taken by 20% for 8 seconds. Used when Mirri Elendis is below 75% health. Cooldown 12 seconds, duration 8 seconds, target self, cast time 0.6 seconds. This is a pretty decent skill if you're going to be running Mirri as a tank build. As a matter of fact, I think it's a little more than decent. I think it's a pretty good skill overall. Not only does it have an average cooldown at 12 seconds, but she also dodges the next incoming attack and also simultaneously reduces damage taken by 20% for 8 seconds. Now, it does require Mirri to be under 75% health for it to activate, but if you're running her as a tank, she will always consistently be taking damage, so this is a pretty decent skill overall. So if you're going to be running Mirri as a tank, I do recommend this personally, but I'll leave you to make that decision for yourself. Moving on. Mask of Torment, at least that's what I think it says. Maske, I can't pronounce that, so there's that. It reads as Mirri Elendis testifies. I've been watching too many court cases apparently. Mirri Elendis terrifies nearby enemies, causing them to cower in fear for 4 seconds. So this is one of the crowd control skills basically that Mirri has. I'll get into it in a second, but the cooldown is at 8 seconds, duration 4 seconds, radius 6 meters, target area, and cast time 0.5 seconds. So the cast time is really quick. The cooldown is below average, or faster than average I should say, and the duration is 4 seconds. So not only do you have a quick turnaround, but the duration, it actually goes through for a pretty decent amount of time at 4 seconds. And it has a radius, so it goes all the way around her. Basically, long story short, this is a good, again, tanking skill. If you're going to be running Mirri as a tank, this is a skill that you could consider if she's being overwhelmed by enemies a lot, or if you're in a dungeon or something that that has a lot of ads and stuff. This would be a pretty decent skill to have on her, since she would terrify and essentially incapacitate, I guess you could say, just have the certain percentage of the enemies stop fighting you. So take them out of the fight quickly, and then that'll be good to go. Overall, I think it's a pretty decent skill, something to consider if you're going to be running Mirri as a tank. Twilight Mantle. Mirri Elendis shrouds themselves in refreshing shadows, healing for 25% of their max health and becoming invisible for 3 seconds. When Mirri Elendis is below 50% health, used when Mirri Elendis is below 50% health. Cooldown 16 seconds, duration 3 seconds, target self, cast time 3.3 seconds. So this skill is very interesting. Again, right off the bat, this is definitely the tanking skill line, if it's not already obvious. But this, when I tested it at one point, I don't know if it was a bug or not, but whenever she would use this skill, she would lose taunt. And I mean, that's not a good thing at all if you're going to be running a tank, you know? The point of having a tank is remaining and having the taunt as long as possible. There is a plus side, however. She does heal for 25% of her max health, so it's an okay skill in terms of what it does. However, it goes even further down for me when you look at the cooldown, which is higher than average at 16 seconds. So overall, I don't really like this skill. It does have a higher than average cooldown, but the fact that she has to be under 50% health for it to work, it kind of makes sense, kind of balances off pretty well. It's not going to be very often she goes under 50% health, so it won't be activated as much. But still, regardless of the situation, I don't think this is a fantastic skill just because she loses taunt. At least that's my experience with it. If they've patched it or fixed that or whatever is the issue, that's a different story. But the last I tested it, that's exactly what happened, and that makes it a pretty below average, if not bad skill, if I do say so myself. Last but not least, Deadly Assassin. We're gonna go from the bottom to the top here. Slayer's Blade. Mirri Elendis thrust a magic blade with lethal precision to finish off an enemy, dealing 18,540 magic damage. Used when an enemy is below 25% health. Cooldown 8 seconds. Range 5 meters. Target enemy. Cast time 0.2 seconds. If it's not already obvious, this is a DPS skill, which is right off the bat an execute, right? This skill is pretty powerful at 18,540 damage. She's almost guaranteed to off an enemy when she uses this, depending on the enemy. Of course, she's not going to one-shot everyone that's below 25% health, but regardless of the situation, it's a very powerful skill nonetheless, and something that I would personally consider if I was running Mirri as a DPS build, but not just a normal DPS build, an up-close and personal DPS build, because it wouldn't be very useful to run this with a bow, for example. But it would be better if you run dual wield, however. So again, very situational in terms of what gear you're going to be running. If you're running a magic build, a range build I should say, it's not very useful. If you're doing an up close and personal type of build, a DPS build for her, this is something to consider. Warping Strike. So this is a teleport ability. We'll read it as it says here. Mirri Elendis flashes through the shadows and ambushes an enemy, dealing 6,180 magic damage. Cooldown 16 seconds. Range 10 to 22 meters. Target enemy. Cast time 0.4 seconds. So this is one of the weird situations in which it has a higher than average cooldown, but it doesn't really matter because this is only useful in an opener. So you're not going to be jumping, unless you have really high DPS, of course, and running against really low level or low health mobs, then maybe it wouldn't activate as quickly. But you're not going to be jumping from one mob to another in 16 seconds for the most part. So this is one of those situations where the higher cooldown doesn't really bother me as much. And it does okay damage at 6,180. The most beneficial thing about this, however, is that she flashes through, she teleports essentially to their destination, to the location of the enemy, and damages, right? And it goes up to 22 meters, so it's a pretty good, fair amount of distance. So it's a good opener, you know, it's a good opener for a DPS build up close and personal again, you know? So something to definitely consider. I think this is a pretty decent ability. Personally, I would probably run this with a dual wield build just because it seems like a good skill to have on there. But moving on. Shadow Slash. Mirri Elendis slashes an enemy, dealing 6,180 magic damage and setting them off balance for 7 seconds. So this ability, I believe it's called Twin Slashes in your normal skill set if you're running dual wield. But that's basically what this is. This is a pretty powerful, for what it is, it's a pretty powerful skill. It does a pretty decent amount of damage at 6,180 damage. But it also sets them off balance, which is very useful in the DPS department, especially when you're running with groups, because your group would be able to take advantage of the off balance, of course. So this overall is, it's okay. It's not bad. Very situational, I think. But I can see this being used a lot. Let me know down in the comment section if you guys actually use this ability. Last but not least is the ultimate, Impeccable Shot. And I gotta say, this is a very good one in my opinion, because Impeccable Shot reads as, Mirri Elendis marks an enemy and exposing their weakness, causing them to take 20% more damage over 3 seconds. While the enemy is exposed, they build up a single kill shot. They build up to a single kill shot, unleashing a massive bolt that deals 18,540 physical damage. So not only does this do a pretty good amount of damage, but it also exposes them to 20% more damage overall. So this ability by itself increases the DPS of your group for 3 full seconds. Now I understand that 3 seconds isn't a lot, and for her to activate it, or you can manually activate it if you have it set up that way, but if it's activated, you have 3 full seconds to unleash all you can in terms of DPS, because you want to take advantage of this this ultimate, right? This weakness, if you will, of 20% more damage. It's a very good skill in my opinion, and if you have her set up to have more ultimate regen, and she's able to basically spam this over and over and over, the DPS would be significant, you know, because to be fair, those like that, you would be basically just taking advantage of this ultimate, because she would be pretty useless to a certain extent, running her in any other type of fashion besides running ultimate. But overall, I think this is a fantastic skill or ultimate for your companion, and it's also the only ultimate for your companion, so there's that. A lot of damage, both from the single shot that she has that does 18,540 physical damage, and the 20% physical damage, extra damage that she gives to the enemy, or weakens to the enemy, or whatever. So there you guys have it. That is Mirri's skill set. Overall, I think she's a great companion. She has a pretty good, decent skill set. Couple abilities, just as in Bastion, aren't as good as others, or are subpar, comparatively speaking, to some of her other skills. But overall, I think she has a pretty solid skill set. And I don't know, I really like her a lot, as a matter of fact. I like running her. I think the best build for her would be as a healer, because you'll be able to take advantage of the extra healing potency that she has, right? The 3% extra healing that she has. On top of that, she just makes it fantastic. She has a great skill set in terms of skills to run for healers. So I think that's the best single-handedly build for her. However, I like to swap between healer and a ranged build, specifically a bow build. I think having her as a bow build is really good for Mirri. Basically any ranged build is decent for Mirri. I like her a lot. If you guys use her or run her, let me know down in the comment section. But that's gonna go ahead and do it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed this one, do me a huge favor, drop a like on this video. Also subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, because it really does help this channel grow. So with that being said, catch you guys in the next one. Deuces.